All right, everyone. Pop A on April 22nd, 2021. It has been a long time since I have addressed you guys in the form of a audio track, vocal. What is this called? This isn't a vocal track. I'm not singing. This is a commentary track, and it's been a long time since I've done this. I think over a year, because I really stopped putting out videos during COVID. And I certainly wasn't talking over videos that I wasn't putting out. So here we are. Are things getting a little bit back to normal? That's a complicated question to answer because we've been riding a lot for a long time. And racing just started up here, at least as far as the local crit scene here in the Dallas area. Lots of guys are vaccinated. Personally, this is, we can point to sources here and understand that the risk of COVID transmission for outdoor activity, I think we can say now is pretty low. Very low, vanishingly low. But anyway, let's not talk about that. Don't want to get into the controversy about whether people should be riding or not. That's your own decision. We're riding. More power to you if you're doing whatever you want to do. But here we are riding, and so this is Pop A. It is a relatively cold day for April here in Texas. It's about 60 degrees going out the door. I know that doesn't sound like it's very cold, but for us people in Texas, it feels cold and it's a dropping temperature and it's quite windy. It was kind of hard. It was really hard, and I wasn't even sure which direction the wind was coming from. I guess if you never take a pull, you don't know where the wind is coming from. So we actually have a strong wind from the south, and so right now we're actually headed west. So we have a little bit of a crosswind. So if we're going to not gutter people, we'll be on the left side of the road like my teammate Lynn is doing up here on the left. And I'm just following wheels. I did intend to take a pull after James there, going up the hill, but these guys went in front of me, so oh well, couldn't take a pull. I guess I'm taking a pull right now. This was a difficult ride. There were some guys, a big group off the front of us, and if I was smart, I would have researched before I started recording this when exactly those guys got ahead of us, and I honestly don't remember. There was a light that turned red. Big long group strung out. The guys in the front go through the light. The rest of us have to stop because we don't want to die. And here we are, kind of chasing. I don't know. When guys in front go off like that, it is extremely rare for us to catch them. Extremely rare. We're hitting lights. They're not hitting lights. Or if we hit the same lights, you have to get pretty lucky, or you have to go really fast. And maybe a combination of the two. So we've been going pretty hard. We're not really expecting to see this group again, especially because the group is quite large. I think the group ahead of us might be like 12 riders, and some pretty strong riders in that group. So we're not expecting really to catch them. Am I foreshadowing? Do we catch them? You'll see here. You'll see. And this is why the ride was so difficult, at least in this part. When you're a beginning rider doing group rides, you really look for these tailwinds. You like the tailwinds. Tailwinds are easier. When you're on group rides that aren't super fast, don't push you to the limit, not riding with guys that are faster than you, where you risk being dropped, tailwinds are easier. On the other hand, when you are riding with really fast guys, tailwinds are harder, and cross tailwinds are the worst because the guys in front don't have anything holding them back. They are not fighting the wind. That means that you don't get incremental benefit from sitting in. So of course, if there's a headwind and you get dropped and you're fighting the wind, that's terrible. That's hard. It's really hard to stay on. Catch up, close that gap. But when you're in the group with a tailwind, you are not getting a huge benefit by being in the draft. And as such, it's harder. It's really hard to stay in the group. You are doing bigger watts. Look, I'm 400 watts right here, and I'm in the draft. 350 watts, 360 watts, and so forth. So this is painful. It's not easy. And I'm in the draft, and we have a tailwind. So I know if I'm hurting here a little bit, guys in the back are hurting too. So we have a pretty big group here. You'll see those guys in a minute. A couple of teammates here in front of me. Spent a lot of time second wheel, it seems like, this ride. That's not a mark of honor, but man, I was tired a lot. I was tired. Um, so yeah, it was tough. What else is going on? I can't claim that there's anything about me that's interesting. So, but because it's hard to know what to talk about in these things. I'll talk a little bit about my own fitness. So my own fitness isn't super great right now. I know nobody cares. I don't even care. But I'm not at the pointy end of my fitness right now. And if exert is to be believed, my FTP is kind of crappy. But I feel like my fitness is actually a little bit better than what that FTP is. About 265. I feel like it's actually artificially low, that thing, but it's not. Point is, it's not 300. So I don't feel like I'm super fit, but that doesn't matter. I'm still out there riding and having fun and putting in some hard efforts. And more hard efforts I put in, the more adaptation I'll get, and I'll get a little bit faster over time. And again, this goes to anybody. It doesn't really matter where you are, it's where you're going. And it feels better to get going a little faster and get a little more fitness into the legs here. So we're pushing pretty hard here, again, sitting in the draft, going well over 300 watts just to stay in the draft here. And we're headed up Jupiter Road. And this feels like a chase. This feels like a chase. It is. We don't like being left behind. We don't like it that those guys are ahead of us. And so here we go. I guess I shouldn't say that's one of the cardinal rules of talking, public speaking. I was watching Chris Tolley's video today, driveway number 2, I think it is, and I guess in his first video, in the comments section, people were making fun of how many times he said and and I suppose it's because Chris Tolley is doing a stream of consciousness and he's not writing down a script or has any plan for what he's going to say in particular. Although there's actually, a story to be told in a particular race, and he knows that story. And just like I know what happens in this group ride, I know the story. And that's part of the point of this video, is to tell a little story about what's going on. So here's John going hard, and another teammate there, he's not wearing the kit right there, in black, James and Clint following him, go off the front. So what I don't realize, I think what's going on here, and I didn't realize it at the time, is they see that the group ahead is at that light, at the green light. And so they're like, we can catch them if we make this green light. If we don't make this light, we're never going to catch them. So they're going real hard, and John's already put in a big pull. I'm tired because I suck and I'm not fast, and I'm second wheel here. I know that John's already been pulling quite a bit. These guys have gapped us big time, and they're chasing this group ahead. I don't really remember when I suddenly realized that there was a group up there. The group was up there. At a certain point, I did realize that and understood the dynamics and situation. I'm watching this pull right now, and it was really hard for me. And it felt like it took 5 minutes. But now that I'm watching on video, it's like 30 seconds, and I'm not even going super hard. I guess it was just all the efforts before then. I mean, my heart rate's pretty high. I have a relatively low max heart rate compared to most people, so 160s for me is suffering. MPA below 600 there, you look in the bottom left, 550, that is suffering. That means the most power I can output right now is 560 watts. Now going up a little bit because I'm freewheeling, and James is going off the front there again, Lynn chasing, and so I'm really suffering. I know that when I'm below 600, that's the utility of using that MPA, especially if it's there on your Garmin and you're in the middle of a race. You can see how much gas you have left in the tank at any particular moment. And I know when I'm at 600, I'm at real risk for being dropped. just by, way of comparison, when I'm fully charged with energy, you'll see that my MPA, I think it's above 1300 watts, as far as, how much energy I can put out over a few seconds. So when that number falls, that means I'm really tired. So even though it felt like a forever pull, the reason it felt like that was because I was so tired. So here we are, going into a little bit of a headwind here, as we go into Park Place. And this actually bodes well, I think, usually when we do this, because the group will slow down with the headwind. They usually really bunch up in this section because of how stiff the headwind is, but not today. They're pushing hard because they have a rabbit in front of them, which is the group we've been chasing, the very rare catch of a large group that has gone through before us. So this is really earned on merit, they went at the light. We were we were substantially behind them, and we're having to close this rather large gap to get up to these guys. So this is a really rare circumstance on the pop ride. It doesn't happen very often at all. Now, I'm not saying the group ahead of us was going full speed or charging fast. I don't know what they were doing. Haven't looked at their numbers or power or anything like that, but we're really suffering here. Gosh dang, look at my MPA, 380, 390. This is like full on about to drop dead kind of fatigue in the legs. So imagine if, one's output when fresh is like 1300 watts, when you can only put out 400 watts, you're really suffering. So I'm sitting here on Kimmett's wheel, and I'm just trying to rest and recover. These other guys are charging ahead, trying to catch up to these guys. I'm not concerned about that. I'm just trying to survive. It's interesting how my heart rate's not going up any higher. Maybe having some problems with my heart rate monitor, but I would think with my MPA that low, below 400, my heart rate would have gone up a little bit more. Anyway, neither here nor there. Maybe I'll see a cardiologist. Just kidding. Or not. So here we are, Park Place. We're about to turn right. There's a certain rhythm to a ride with something like the pop ride, especially for guys that have done it a bajillion times, as many of us have. Of course, it's always good to have. You can see the flags there on the left. I guess they took down the Trump flag finally. Anyway, we won't get into politics here. So we have the U.S. flag and the Texas flag blowing, indicating that there is a strong south wind. We are now going into that strong south wind. Not exactly sure how strong the wind was. I would say it felt over 10 miles per hour. I usually overestimate how strong the wind is, so it kind of felt like 15, which probably means it was like 11, something like that. So we're going to get into a little bit of an easier portion of the ride here, at least for me, because now I'm able to sit in. Now I am getting a lot of rest compared to what the guys in front are doing, having to fight the wind. So you can see low watts here as I'm freewheeling, of course, and as I don't pedal, my MPA is rapidly rising. You can see that on the bottom left. So I know I've talked about this in previous videos, but MPA stands for maximum power available. It's an exert metric. Exert is a little bit like Trainer Road, or what's it called? Not Trainer Peaks, whatever it's called. It's a training system / tracking kind of. You can do trainer rides, workouts, a lot of different stuff in Exert, but we talk about that some other time. By the way, there was a request for understanding where to get firewood on this ride, so I'll just mention that real quick. I'll give a shout out to our sponsor, Wooters Wood Care, by John Markham. He's a local cyclist here in the Dallas area, and he sells firewood. So if you're interested in getting firewood, contact him, John Markham at Wooters Wood Care. Try saying that 5 times. You can post a comment below, and I'll try to connect you if you're interested in getting some firewood or getting your fence stained or painted. Or he does staining, actually, not painting. Or maybe he does painting too, but I know he focuses on the staining. So firewood, an interest of mine, of course, with my title of my channel being Honest Tree, there's got to be some interest in trees and wood. So who knows? Maybe I'll quit cycling and just start posting firewood videos or something. Let me know in the comments if that's what you prefer. Anyway, still cycling here though. Yeah. There's Kimmeth waving his hand. Kimmeth told me he really suffered on the last pop ride. So that's unusual for him. He usually is strong and powerful. Not the largest guy in the entire world. Of course, it's not a disadvantage to be a little bit smaller in cycling. Although here in Texas, we're so flat in the north part of Texas here in Dallas, there's not a huge advantage to being lightweight as it might be in some other areas where there's a lot of climbing involved. But why am I talking about Kimmeth's weight? I mean, is that really what Kimmeth wants me to talk about? How tall he is, how much he weighs? Kimmeth, hit me up. Let me know if you want that to be the full subject of a future video here. You know, been watching a lot of NorCal cycling videos, and always fun to watch videos about cycling strategy. For those of you that like those videos, I'd like to point you to a different YouTube channel that I think is really good, that predates NorCal cycling by a long, long time. And that is Sprinter de la Casa. Sprinter de la Casa. I can't remember if that's 4 words or 3 words or whatever, but look him up. He does videos as well. I mean, not for a long time now, but he put out a lot of videos back in the day. His videos are not narrated. They have subtitles, and they're accompanied to his brothers or cousins' punk rock music. So you got this punk music along with commentary on video. Sprinter de la Casa is a very good sprinter, as you might expect. I think he was like a Cat 2, kind of Cat 3, Cat 2 range, maybe higher, but he's not someone that's like, you know, like the fastest guy in the entire region sort of thing. But it doesn't matter, right? Principles are principles. Smart racing is smart racing. And he comes at it from the perspective of a sprinter. And a lot of the strategies he describes and uses are extremely effective, and I've used them to good effect when I've focused on them. So check those out. One of the things he really emphasizes, in a race at least, is efficiency. Really trying to save your energy to the moments that you need it. And that's a real skill. Because lots of people are thinking the same thing in a race. You know, everyone wants to be efficient, but there are little tricks that you can use that really increase your efficiency. So, gosh, when you're really tired, even like, you know, not pedaling for a few seconds can make a big difference regarding how much energy you have to expend at any given time. And, you know, if you've done that less energy kind of thing over and over and over during a race, you'll have more energy in the moment that you need it. Specifically, you know, if you're a sprinter and you need to just explode at the very end of the race. So anyway, we're coming up to one of my favorite parts of the ride in general, which is the left-hand turn onto Parker Road. And I kind of refer to this road as the gutter exam. In my subtitles, I refer to it that way, and I refer to it as the gutter exam because it is where we have the strongest crosswinds on this ride. And crosswinds are a good thing. It's fun. It's good practice regarding positioning. Good practice for having power, learning about efficiency. For example, it can be super easy with the strong crosswind, depending on your position, or it can be really hard and you get dropped and spit out the back. So we have a very strong wind today from the south, and there's going to be guys that are very conscientious about this crosswind that they'll be facing. And so we can watch in the video how different people approach this crosswind situation. So we'll see in just a second, but as we turn left on the road here, the wind will be blowing from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen. So we're going to be heading east, and the wind will be from the right, i.e. the south. And so we have a tradition on this ride that we don't gutter. So what that means is that the person who's on the very front of the ride will ride in such a fashion that they're closest to the wind, allowing the people in the back to be furthest away from the wind. And we'll see that in just a second. Now, that's not necessarily what you would do in a race situation. In a race situation, you might want to gutter. You might want to give very little shelter to the people behind you. So, for example, if you're taking a really hard pull, you might go into the gutter yourself and force everyone else to be in the gutter, and that means everyone's having to do the same amount of work you are. They're not getting any benefit from a draft, and guys will just pop, 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 pop. Gaps will open up, and you can have an advantage by breaking up the group. So, I know most of you, all of you, know what a gutter is or guttering is, but what it refers to is when you have no room left on the road and you are all the way over into the gutter. And of course, it depends on which way the wind is coming from, but when the road is completely open, and there isn't traffic, guys will fan out across the entire length of the road, and the last person in that echelon, or the last several people, or many people, that's the gutter. They're in the gutter. And the gutter's a dangerous place to be. You don't want to be in the gutter. Lots of crashes happen in the gutter. People get really close. There's stuff on the side. You hit something, a curb, whatever. You even watch the professional ranks when they are guttered in crosswinds. People will crash like crazy. They go off the road. The road can narrow. Lots of bad things can happen. So that's one reason why we don't gutter, i.e. the front guys don't purposefully put people in the gutter, although only so many people can fit, into one echelon. So it might be that only 15 people can fit or less, depending how steep the echelon is. And then it becomes a matter of whether people form a second echelon. So here we see the wind is coming from the right to the left. Already guys are tending to move over to the left a little bit in the lane, and that is the more sheltered position. So I just don't want to be in that left lane here. We want to stick to the right lane because there's passing traffic that's going pretty fast. But I'm in a sheltered position. I'm pretty close to that white line, which means everyone who's getting shelter behind me specifically is having to ride either directly behind me or even closer to that white line. So we saw on the right in the yellow bike, Steve moving up. He is moving up into the wind, having to do more effort to get up. And this line to my right, they're in the wind. They're blocking the wind. There's Kimmeth in the fluorescent jacket there. He's moving up. We see Mr. Brady here on my left in the United pink, blue, and white kit. He's wanting to move up on the sheltered side, which is the easiest way to move up. You see Alvin there in the black jacket moving up in the wind. He's having to do much more effort. Say that Mr. Brady and Alvin were both moving up at the same time. Be much to the advantage of Mr. Brady because he's sheltered from all this wind coming from the right, whereas Alvin there on the right is not sheltered at all. So you don't want to be too far in the back, even if you're in a sheltered position, because a gap might open in front of you. And the guys who let the gap open aren't going to be able to close it. And by the time you get up there and see what's going on, there's a huge gap, and you might not be able to close that gap yourself. So the guys that are moving up on the right, they're conscientious, and they want to get closer to the front. If you can get right up to the guys that are at the very front of the echelon, you can kind of get into that pace line of the echelon, which is not a front-to-back pace line, but it's a side diagonal pace line. Of course, I could be fancy and drop some kind of animation or something, but this is not that kind of channel. This is not the kind of channel that actually makes money and has subscribers, so we're not going to do that. Little sip of water here. So I'm totally having a final time here, Gosh, I'm not even doing 200 watts. Going 26 miles an hour and a huge wind. MPA over 1300 watts. I'm sitting pretty. I'm loving it. Good times. Not hard. So depending on your positioning, it'd be interesting, to have some power numbers. Again, if I researched it before talking on the video, I could say that, for example, Alvin was having to do 350 watts as he was moving up and going the same speed as me, where I'm going, 200 watts. And of course, with this lane, you can see there's nowhere really to go. I'm not going to be able to advance on the left. I'm not going to be able to advance on the right. Just going to have to let this play out. If this was a race situation, it's, be kind of, a group could get away and nothing I can do about it. Now, John's recognizing, John's smart. John's one of the smartest guys we have in this group in terms of racecraft, if not the smartest, or close to it. He's really good, and I've learned a lot from him, and he's moving up. Now he's having to put in effort to move up. Sometimes you have to use energy to save energy. So being too efficient can lead to a situation where you're in horrible position and you have to go all out and burn all your matches in a way that you don't want to because you didn't expend, say, one match in moving up here. Well, I'm fine. This is fine. I'm not in trouble. I don't think anybody in the group's in trouble here on this. So what I noticed here on this particular day is that everyone was very attentive to their positioning in terms of this crosswind and getting into good position. And the guys that were moving up on the right side in general were strong guys that have a lot of power and ability to do what they want. When you're stronger, you just can mess around. You don't have to be efficient. You can move up. You can do anything you want. It's kind of like playing a card game where you have all the good cards. You can burn those cards however way you fit and still be fine. When you don't have the fitness, you have to be very careful because you may soon find yourself out of luck, pushing in all in, and finding yourself on the wrong end of that bet. So here we are about to make our right-hand turn, and we'll now be going into what is mostly a headwind, but kind of a cross headwind. The wind is a little bit, I think, from the southeast, so this would be kind of to our face and a little bit to our left. That's where the wind is coming from. So that's why you can see guys are moving kind of in a small echelon where the guys in front are all the way on the left side, and of course where guys in the back are more to the right side. The advancing side of the pace line will be from the right side, which is sheltered, whereas the left side here, those guys are in the non-sheltered position. So that's usually how it works in the pace line. The advancing, faster side of the pace line will be on the sheltered side. So, yeah, kind of cold today. I wore this jacket, my LEL jacket. Thank you, LEL, for sponsoring our race team, in part. And I have this LEL jacket. I almost never wear it. The problem is it's either like too cold or too warm. There's not really a great sweet spot for that jacket. Sometime I need to do a review of winter clothing, just my personal experience with it. But I was quickly overheating, so I put that jacket under my jersey. So it's not a big jacket. It's bulky. You can't actually put it in a pocket. I have it stuffed in the front of my jersey. Look like Santa Claus. Even fatter than I am already. Anyway, so here we are advancing on the right-hand side. So we're in the sheltered position, and I'm not really under pressure right now, but we're going pretty fast it's a little bit of a downhill, like maybe 1% downhill grade, and we're going pretty fast for a headwind here, 28 miles per hour. Yeah, a little bit of a downhill here. So for me to get on the front here, to accelerate and get onto the front, having to, push over 400 watts for a short time and then kind of ease up, slow down a little bit as I come in, now pushing over 300 watts and waiting for the guy to come around. See what happens here. So slow down a little bit, then I had to push real hard. So that was not really a smooth transition where you don't want your power to really go down and then go up like that because it's tiring. I felt that small little push. That's maybe not burning a match, but it's shaving off the what do they make? Sulfur? They don't make them out of sulfur. What do they make those matchsticks out of? It's shaving off some of that stuff off your match. Please post in the comments what matches are made of that I shaved a portion off of a match. That is a very important analogy for my channel in cycling, so we need to know that, especially since fire goes with wood, and I like firewood. And you can also buy firewood. Did I mention that? From John Markham and Wooters would care. I can't even. Wooters would care. It needs to be Wooters would care or Wooters would care. Anyway, I'll talk to John about that. All right. I just, you really hate it when you're going fast and you hit lights. Can we do something about lights? We don't want lights. We want all greens. We don't want to hit any reds. We want the magic button. Did I ever mention that that I actually talked to someone at the city to see if we could time the lights for this ride? Like, especially on Renner Road. This is coming up on, Renner Road is coming up. That's the last stretch of the ride here. Kind of usually the hardest, fastest stretch of the ride. But I've actually talked to someone in the city about the possibility of timing the lights for the speed of the group, like a cycling speed rather than a car speed, so that we could potentially hit all the lights green. Wouldn't that be incredible? That would be great. Meaning that one's efforts can pay off in terms of positioning. All the lights is one reason that we really can't have any strategy on this ride in terms of team tactics. Or, not that it's not a race ride. It's not about racing. It is kind of what I would call a Hammerfest ride, that you can go really hard, you can go off the front, you're not obligated to stay in the group, and guys can get dropped and stuff like that. That's just part of this ride. It's an accepted dynamic of this ride. But it can't be a race ride because we always get pulled back together in terms of the lights. So any kind of breakaway is usually influenced by the lights more than anything. So you're not really going to learn racing strategy on this ride, but you can learn a lot of other things that can be effective for learning racing on a ride like this. So for example, reading what's going on in the group, learning to be more efficient, becoming more comfortable with riding close to people. When I first did this ride, the first time I did Pop A, I'd never been in a ride like this before. Just scared the crap out of me. I just wasn't used to this close quarters riding. And we're not even riding that close. There's a guy in our group, Adam, that is a former professional cyclist who happened to be in the Lance Armstrong 30 for 30. Was it 30 for 30? What was that? I guess it was a 30 for 30. He was featured in that. And one of the things he's told me about the difference in riding pro in Europe is how close people ride to each other. It's like a different level of closeness that is even beyond what you would see in, say, like a Cat 1 pro race in the United States or Crit or something. But it's like everything touching kind of closeness in those kinds of groups and rides. At least that's the way he describes it. And I believe him. Because there is an advantage to this efficiency, and there's a fight for position as well. But when you're first starting out riding, you see these beginning group rides that are going 13 miles an hour. Shoot, there's like 5 bike lengths between each rider. It's there's big gaps, and that's for safety, and also just a comfort level thing, and also because guys aren't predictable. You don't want to be on one of these rides where people are not predictable and are riding dangerously. So number one priority here is safety, getting home in one piece. Do not veer around, do not swerve. Assume that there are cyclists behind you, including with wheels overlapped. Assume that. Even though at the same time, please do not ever overlap your wheels in this ride. When you're passing someone, you're in that danger zone where your wheels are overlapped. You've got to quickly get through that zone and be aware that someone could suddenly swerve. So major cause of accidents is wheels overlapping, i.e. not protecting your front wheel, i.e. your front wheel is overlapped with someone's rear wheel. They move, the rear wheel hits your front wheel, and you go down, and you take out everyone around you. So this was one of those oh crap moments where, you're going slow, you're expecting to hit a red light because it's almost always red here, and you wait. But it wasn't red today, it turned green. So another thing they talk about is when to move up in a group ride. Of course, there's a million reasons, can't discuss all of that. But one of the best times to move up is when it's easy to move up. I.e. Things have slowed down, people are starting to freewheel, boom, take some places, move up, use a few pedal strokes, get a better position. So say there's a line and you're like, well, if I get out of line, then maybe I can't get back in the line. Yeah, in a courteous bike ride, that is the case. It's hard to get back in line, but at a higher level of racing, thank goodness I don't really do this kind of racing, you can force your way into the line. So when you have position in front of someone and you have, you're ahead, your bike, your handlebars are ahead of a person, you can, to some degree, force your way into taking that wheel in front of you. You kind of come off the back and slow down and then veer over. They'll have sometimes no other choice but to let you in. Of course, we don't really want to do that on this ride because it's a little bit risky and you don't really know what people are doing. So please don't do that on this ride. But anyway, don't need to be scared about moving up, especially if you have the energy to do it. So yeah, and this is like we're not fighting for this wheel, but we're kind of fighting for this wheel. I'm not fighting for it, but we're kind of at a disadvantage, me and Fred on the left. So he's not fully in the draft because he needs to be over a little bit more to the right to be in the draft, whereas I'm getting some draft and I'm not kind of allowing him all the draft that he probably wants. Not that he really cares, but for him to get full draft, he needs to be over a little bit, and I'm occupying that space. I suppose in a certain kind of racing, you might lean on each other. There might be that kind of fight that goes for position in terms of the wheel. When I did my velodrome training ×2, did it twice. That's the superdrome / velodrome that used to be in Frisco that was dismantled and is sitting in storage somewhere. I helped dismantle it. But anyway, back in the day, Matt Stevens did the training for that, and let's see, Matt Stevens is notable on the local scene for being one of the very best cyclists around, having won the Dirty Kanza before. I think that's a pretty awesome claim to fame. But anyway, he did part of our training for the velodrome, for the superdrome. And one of the things we practiced at the very beginning was actually leaning on each other. Now, that's the only time I've ever practiced it. I've never been in another situation where we practice leaning on each other. But it's, the idea of the training was to get us used to a little bit of contact, not freak out, learn how to control our bike, learn how not to go down, crash avoidance. So, again, we do not want to practice leaning on each other in the pop ride. Why am I even talking about this? There's Jenny. For those of you that are out of town and watching this, there's a very famous, I would say it's famous crit, Fair Park crit. Fair Park is where the Cotton Bowl is. Cotton Bowl is a famous stadium. And there's a crit there at Fair Park. And it's been going on for a long time. She is the promoter that runs that crit. So Ginny has done a lot for the local cycling scene there. There she is, a couple bikes in front of me. And very, I can't even speak English. She has Palmares. Is that the way you pronounce that? National champion. So an excellent cyclist in her own right. So here we are approaching the Breckenridge climb, and we're going pretty fast here, 33 miles an hour. And again, tiny bit of a downhill, maybe 0.5% grade downhill here. We have a crosswind from the left to the right. However, in general, on Renner Road here, in contrast to Parker, there is not as much of a crosswind because there is more stuff blocking the wind. We are sheltered and shaded from the wind because of all the fences and houses. It's not just open fields. All the stuff around us here, these houses, these privacy walls / traffic noise walls, whatever you call them, are blocking the wind. So the wind's kind of like going over the trees to some extent. We're not getting the full force of the wind. So that's one thing about this ride, is that even though we are headed directly west and the wind is from the south, we're not really getting a ton of crosswind on this particular part of the ride. But as you can see, the riders in the front are going to the left so that they are not guttering the group, and this allows us to form an echelon fanning out to the right, and helps more of us stay in the group together. So here we are again. Just lost the wheel. Take the next wheel. Lose the wheel. How many wheels am I going to lose? Okay, now I'm back on the wheel. And looking at my NPA 970, so the way that NPA decreases is by going above your threshold power. So time spent above your threshold means you're dipping into that reserve of energy you have that can replenish over time as you are going easier, but when you go into that, as we went up the climb, the NPA decreases. So we see here I'll probably be going a little bit easier for a while, and the NPA will be creeping up over time, a little bit of time here, until we do a few more hard efforts, and then we'll go down some more. Well, let's see what's going to happen here. I already know what happens. Can't say it's terribly exciting. We ride our bikes, we're on the road, we're on a group ride. Why am I making this video? I'm not sure. So this is an example where it'd be easy to move up because people are freewheeling, right? So I don't even have to pedal to take a few places. I could have gone further up if I wanted to. Oops, hit that bump. That's another reason not to ride there on the right. But yeah, that's the easiest time to move up. Otherwise, when people are pedaling really hard and going, 400 watts, that's not a great time necessarily. Well, depending on the strategy, it's a harder time to move up. So, always nice to be behind a big rider. Big draft. Nice draft. A little bit of a uphill here. So this is where we're going to get into this. It's not a false flat. It's more than a false flat. Like 2% grade, slow uphill here. That's really a power climb. So you don't have to be lightweight to go fast on this particular part of the climb, but it really favors the ability to put out a lot of power here. And because it's a little bit of an uphill grade, it can expose some people. People can get dropped on this. So Alvin pulling out to the right there. He is in. He's not sheltered because he's too far over. There goes James putting in a dig. James likes to put in digs on this part of the ride often. Going to the front, he's going to scoot into the left. Again, if he was making an attack in a race, he wouldn't scoot into the left. He'd just be in the gutter all the way to the right and just hammering. But he moves over to the left, and this echelon continues here. And riders have been on the front, need a little break, go to the right, move back as other riders are passing. So Alvin pulling over again to the right. Gap opens up. So what's going to happen? Now I think Alvin's like letting these gaps open up and just seeing what's happening, kind of seeing if people are going to close this gap or not. So this is what always happens, right? You take this pull, then the guy who's sitting second wheel right behind you, instead of going right around you and helping out, just puts in a greater amount of power and catches up to the guys ahead. So I know it can feel kind of like a crappy move when you're the guy who is on front, but when you're in a race situation, for example, you're bridging into a breakaway, it's nice, like if the person's not your teammate, wouldn't it be nice if you make it to the break and they don't? So they've put in a lot of work, and you then attack and drop them and make it to the breakaway. So not really what I was doing, but big gap opened up, and finally I said, okay, well, I'll just power up to these guys. Here we are stopping. Hate this light. This is the worst light. This is like the newest light on the pop ride. Well, I guess it's for emergency vehicles. Those are important. The hospitals are important. But it's the worst light. Just, why do we need to add another light? We hit this light, then we hit the next light. Anyway, so is that me talking like a little, like, can't breathe? Here I am coughing on water. So watch this guy in front of me, Mr. Brady. We'll watch him in just a second. So he's got an interesting riding style. He's the guy in the pink, blue, and white, just directly in front of me. And one thing about him is he can put out a lot of power with a relatively low cadence, and he never looks like he's suffering. It is just smooth, smooth, smooth pedaling. And you can be behind him, suffering like all get out, and it looks like he's not suffering at all. It's really kind of, it's like intimidating. It's like a psychological thing. It's one thing when you think the guy in front of you is like at his limit of suffering. Then it's another thing when you're like, this guy is just a beast and can keep going forever and ever and ever. And we're going to see this here. See what kind of suffering he inflicts on everyone behind him here. Just a lot of power. And you can see here he's ramping it up. I'm having to ramp it up to stay on his wheel. And yeah, this is a situation where I'm getting a draft benefit for sure. Here I am going, briefly 500 watts, over 400 watts, just staying on his wheel. This is, calmly pointing out every little crack and thing. Was that a little flick for me to go through? Or I think that was more like lights red, because of course I'm not going to go through. I can't go through. I'm too tired. Yeah, but his writing style. One thing I've noticed, and I mentioned this to him in the ride. It's similar to what John Summer does. Some guys have this attacking style where they attack the group, but it doesn't really look like they're attacking the group. They just kind of, without any fanfare, without jumping off the bike, getting out of the saddle, they just see. That's John right there on the right. The kind of attack he does is he's not out of the saddle. He's just powers, not even a high cadence, and he just slowly, well, maybe sometimes more than slowly, but he just accelerates past the group. It doesn't look threatening. It just looks like, oh yeah, he's just going a little bit faster, and then he's gone. It's a really effective kind of psychological tactic, I think, in terms of a kind of attack that catches people a little bit unawares. At least that's my experience with it. When you see someone jumping out of the saddle, it's like it awakens your instinct to be aware, do something. It's like you want to react to it. When you don't see someone really firing off or looking like they're firing off, your instincts are to ignore it, not react to it. At least that's what I think happens. At least happens with me. So, I definitely don't have that like low cadence, fire off the front without any effort, without looking to have any, seeming like having any effort. So, but it's interesting to observe. Here we are heading to City Line. Those buildings to the right, State Farm headquarters. Thank you, Illinois. We enjoy having the State Farm headquarters. Appreciate your donation of that company to us. And this is kind of like a sprint zone, except there's no finish line. So what kind of sprint zone can you have without a finish line? But a lot of the guys peel off here, as this is the end of the ride for a lot of guys. So it's sort of like there are some minor bragging rights. Even though this is not me claiming that, bragging about anything that just happened, because that was way too late. You hear that noise? That's my ice maker. I think there's something wrong with it. I don't think it should be making that loud of a noise through a door. It wakes me up, my ice maker. We got to get it fixed. If anyone knows anything about ice makers making really loud noises when they're flipping the ice over, I assume that there's some gearing issue that's broken, or motor mount or something. Probably gonna have to replace the whole thing, but that's the ice maker with that rhythmic banging sound. Don't ever buy an LG refrigerator. That's also probably the best advice that I've had on this particular video. Don't buy an LG refrigerator. So here we have Mr. Brady again. He's just such smooth power. Another thing that's intimidating, when a guy is going super hard, fast, and you're having to go super hard on their wheel, and they're not even in an aero position. It's like, well, I'm just here for a workout, so I'll just sit up on my bike and go 600 watts, and yeah, I'll just do that. He does sometimes get in a very aero position, but other times he's just killing us, and it's like he's not even trying. It's like the ultimate flex. Like looking like you're not even trying and you're smashing the group. So not ascribing any psychological kind of motivation on his part to flex on the group or otherwise intimidate the group. He's just riding, but uh, so, but just kind of remarking on his riding style. Here we are at 75. Interstate 75. This is the last part of the ride. So sadly, the commentary is coming to an end. Now you're realizing why I don't do commentary. I'm using a different program now. I usually use my phone as the microphone, like I record on my phone, but my phone, that program sucks. And what it does is like sometimes skips and then the syncing gets off. I don't know if this is going to work any better, but I'm using a program actually on my computer rather than my phone now to record. And we'll see if that works a little bit better, but I don't even know why I'm recording today. Sometimes actually faster and easier to do something like this than it is to put in can't even think of it, the writing. The subtitles, yes, that is the word, subtitles. Subtitles are kind of a pain to put in. It takes effort. And you know, effort's nice for people that have like successful YouTube channels, but it's not good for unsuccessful YouTube channels. And you might say, well, you'd be successful if you put in effort, but yeah, it's a chicken and egg problem, right? I don't want to put in any effort, but I want to be successful. Actually, I don't really care. I don't have any aspirations for this channel, but yeah, subtitles can kind of be a pain to do, at least with the programs that I've been using. Also changed the programs that I'm using now. No longer using Adobe Premiere Elements, using a free program now that I think is actually a little bit better, DaVinci Resolve. Sam Finlater turned me on to DaVinci Resolve as a good option. So if you're looking for a very powerful, nice video editing platform, I would recommend the free version of DaVinci Resolve, which seems to be a lot more powerful than my Adobe Premiere Elements, actually. So there's nothing I've encountered that I can't do. And I actually was able to learn the basics of DaVinci Resolve pretty quickly. So would recommend that. This is the final sprint of the ride, sometimes contested, sometimes not. Recently it seems like it's been contested almost every time. So foreshadowing, I am not going to contest this sprint. So anyway, I hope that's not a disappointment. I hope you aren't waiting until the very end of this video to see what the final result is for the final sprint, but it's not going to be satisfying for you. Unless you specifically came to watch me not win, in which case this could be reasonably satisfying. I don't know. I'll just leave it to you. So, yeah, there's Luke there on the right. Did his first couple of crits as a Cat 5, so congratulations to him for jumping into racing. Good to see young folks getting into racing. So not every crit is a master's crit. There goes Alvin, just plenty of easy power, just boom. Not sure what Alvin's peak power is, but it's, I think, well over 1,500 watts, maybe 1,600. So, sorry if I shorted you on some watts there, if I said that incorrectly, but just a lot of power, a lot of ability to, you know, play different cards on the group ride, so to speak, when you have a lot of power like that. So the finish line up here is at the yellow sign, not the first yellow sign, but the next yellow sign. It's not here yet, it's coming up. It's not the bus, whatever that, it's not that yellow sign, it's the next yellow sign after this one. Yes, the next one. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this ride. I mean, if you like the commentary, great, let me know. I might do some more. If you don't, that's fine too. I just do whatever and document some of these rides. Hope you are enjoying whatever kind of riding you're doing, whether it's by yourself, on the trainer, groups, whatever. Cycling's awesome. Take care. Bye-bye.